Hello, welcome back to the series, and we're continuing on our next part. So, we're going to talk about today mental health. Okay, so as we know, a double minded man is unstable in all of his ways. We're in a society right now where everyone is pushing mental health, mental health, mental health. Because I talk encouragement and I give the spiritual advice that I give, when I say BetterHelp is on my page 24/7 and 365, I have gotten to a point, like, I see their ads so much that I've tried to get them off of my YouTube page and I can't delete them. The way that these ads are set up on these pages is if you hit the three dots to try to remove the ad, it takes you into the ad. You can't not go into the ad if you try to remove the ad from your page. So, yeah. My feelings towards it is that when you are new and you are gaining wisdom, you fresh, you a babe in Christ. Meaning you just came out of something and it was a bad situation and you have no tools in your toolbox to deal with spiritual issues. I believe that, yeah, you should take a moment to gain strategy of how to psychologically deal with the emotional issues that you're going to be dealing with as you're walking with God. Because if you have no foundation, this walk could crush you. Now, I did not know this, but another YouTuber put me on to the fact that BetterHelp does have a Christian element to it, meaning they will give you a biblical ability to do your therapy, meaning it's biblically based, so on and so forth. So that's good, because the one that I would suggest was faith counseling. That's another one that does that. So I'm always say that if you are a child of God, you go to godly people, meaning the scripture says in it that you do not want to sit in the seat of sinners or surround yourself with scornful people, so on and so forth. So why would you get your therapeutic help from somebody that wasn't even biblically based? Now, to catch-22 this, I need you to pay close attention. That if you choose to go to therapy, pray about who your therapist is going to be before you even go into seeking out Christian therapy. Because I guarantee you that some of those people that they got working in those areas, they just know how to teach it. Some of them might not be walking it. You understand what I'm saying? So if they ain't walking it, but they just teaching it because, okay, I know that it's a paycheck, them job people are not going to be going through with a fine-tooth comb to make sure that their walk with God is exactly the, you understand what I'm saying? So I need you to pray that when you go into, put everything before God. That's just common sense. But before you go into any type of counseling, make sure it's Christian counseling. And then if you are getting Christian counseling, pray about who you get. Because when God touches that situation, he's going to make sure that the person that you get will be who you're supposed to be aligned with in that season. to get you what you need to get in that season. And it will help you through that process. So that's that on the mental health element. Now, I have mentors, they say that they don't particularly believe in it, that if you are walking with God, but some people don't start there. Some people don't start. It takes time for us to get to a phase that we understand the spiritual realms, that we understand that we have to separate ourselves and break barriers and tear down demons and all this kind of stuff. That take time. When you first starting and you don't know what's happening to you, you need a Christian counselor. And you need the right Christian counselor. I knew that when I was receiving counseling before, years ago when I first started my walk, that when my walk with God got tighter and I became closer to God, the Christian counselors or the counselor, because the actual people that I was working with were not Christian counselors. And I knew that because they started to contend with me and create enmity between me and them because they started talking about their faith. And you can't deal with nobody trying to speak into you, especially if you are seeking the Lord at that time. The enemy gonna send somebody, or if this person is already in your life, this person's gonna turn on you and start bringing you into a spirit of confusion and bewitchment by speaking into your ear messages that are not of God, because they weren't walking with God anyway. So this is why you have to separate yourselves from traditional therapy. You understand what I'm saying? So it's better to have a faith-based counselor than it is to have a regular therapist. Because as long as you're walking with God and you are taking this walk seriously, you're going to be at enmity with them at some particular point. It may not be initially, but understand you're going to hit a wall. And them speaking into your ear about such intimate things. So this is where you have to learn to have boundaries with individuals. You're going to go through a process, especially when walking with God. I realized this early in my walk, especially when I started consecrating myself before the Lord, that you have to have boundaries, because people are going to test these boundaries as soon as you start walking with God for real, for real. I mean, you reading your word, you praying, and then when you start consecrating, oh, these people gonna come out the woodwork. People you thought was friends and family members from years to past, and it's like, wait, but you's my cousin. Why are you attacking me all of a sudden? Hold up, you my. Oh my God. Why? Because the spirit on you that now is illuminated, because you're walking with God and you have gotten a deeper revelation and you're really walking with God for real, for real. Oh, these people gonna go crazy over you. Meaning they gonna start projecting, they gonna start doing. Anybody that knows what I'm talking about, raise your hand. They gonna go in on you. And this is when you have to understand the healthy boundaries. I'm gonna repeat it again. I said it before, I'm gonna say it again. Some people are supposed to be in your life for a reason, a season, and a lifetime. Remember that from the Medea play? Reason, season, a lifetime. You need to reorganize the people in your life, because during certain seasons they can't be around you. God may send certain people back around to you after he's dealt with their heart. But when you're going through your process of your wilderness of finding out who God truly is, these people gonna come around and they gonna be like Job's friends. They gonna be like telling you, "Do you sure you didn't do nothing wrong with God? Are you sure? Maybe you need to be convicted about that. Maybe you need to try to what? Create a reality around you to confuse you, to get you to come out of alignment with God and go back into agreement with them." That's all it's really trying to do. This is why you have to have healthy boundaries. This is why I talk about the harmony chart. This is actually what we're doing right now. I'm going through the harmony chart. That you have to determine who's going to be close to your temple, which number one should be God. Then who's going to be around you, how you take care of you, that's your second level. Then how you allow your family, meaning who's in your direct home. Then the people that you're going to allow around you outside of you. And it should be the closest people to you should be your spouse. If your spouse ain't walking with God fully and wholeheartedly, all hell gonna break loose in your house. I'm sorry to tell you, I've seen it happen. I've seen it happen. All hell gonna break off in your house. I know a woman. Her house was a mess all the time. She was walking with God. Come to find out, her spouse was not walking with God. And their children were all on the husband's side. They were doing, and I tell you, it was like a spiritual war zone in their house. And you could see it because the environment in the house looked a hot mess. She couldn't keep that house clean enough. This is the one that ended up getting sick. Because she was fighting demons in her own daggone house. Sometimes you got to come to a place that you have to come to the realization you got to separate from certain people. The thing about it, and I'm going to say this, and this is why when I hear people say in the comments that they in relationship with people and the Lord done said that they need to divorce this person. And so if God told you to separate yourself from that person, he's going to show you why. I'll never tell you to divorce nobody. But I will tell you this. If God needs you to separate from that individual, he will gradually separate you. If you're not ready to let that individual go, what he's going to do is he's going to slowly lead you away from them, because that person's going to start attacking you like a crazy person. Madman, honestly. And when that person starts attacking you because of the desire for peace within your entirety of self, you're going to want to start pulling away. You're going to start mentally pulling away. You're going to start emotionally pulling away. You're going to start everything's going to start pulling away. And through that process, he's going to separate you. Now, if God told you that person was not meant to be in your life, you're going to go through separation, and then you're going to go through divorce. God's going to do that. Because God, as you grow, it will be no choice but for that individual to let you go. Because you are growing. It's only when you choose to stop growing in order to appease that individual, you screw yourself up. I'm sorry. This is why healthy boundaries are necessary. This is why you got to be aware of the 5 closest people to you. Because these are the people that if you aren't properly aligned, they will lead you through barking at you, through jump scaring you, through intimidation, all kinds of stuff to try to lead you away from the direction that God's trying to take you in. For your own mental health, emotional health, and spiritual health, you have to separate yourself from people, and God is going to show you. It's funny, I was listening to Dr. Whitaker yesterday. She was talking about the fact that you have to cut these people off, because when you are doing the work on yourself, they're going to show their areas. And when they do, you know the old saying, when a person shows you who they are, believe them. They're going to show you who they are. They're going to show you who they really are. And you have to realize, if you were a people pleaser before, you got to let that go. Because these people going to attack you and you going to feel like, oh my God. Because if you was pleasing people, oh honey, People gonna attack you all day long. They're gonna try to manipulate you because you're walking with God now. And they're gonna try to use that element against you through pity. And they will always come back with that. Understand, they ain't operating in a healthy spirit, but they want to use your spirit in order to drain you. Cut it off. Cut it off. You got to get away from these people. Now, we already went over the wise counselors, but understanding that these individuals literally will become, if you make them your idol, they will become your master and make you a slave to them. You need to cut that off for your own health, because these toxic people will make you sick. They will, I already done talked to y'all about the individual that her own daughter was making her sick. But because it was her child, yeah, your child can make you sick. She had to let that child go. But she allowed the child back in. When she let the child go, she got better. But when she brought the child back in, she got sick again. Toxic. Toxic. You hear that? Sick. Toxic. Let him go. But that's what does the scripture say? Let go of mother, father, sister, brother, cousin. It's 12:22 of, I can't remember which book. And follow God. Because if you don't, they are going to lead you away from God. And your people-pleasing nature, for your own peace, you will succumb to their dominance. And you will be oppressed, depressed, and miserable. And sickly. Because they don't want you to grow. But when you set yourself free from that, you either gonna set yourself free from them, or you gonna be their footstool. What you gonna be? I'm gonna need you to go through that process. I was listening to a young woman, Shantia Deja. She was talking about every season she has to let go of somebody. And it's true, because what's happening in all actuality, and this is the uncomfortable part about being a Christian, God will put you through a season, and within that season, he will lead people into your life, and he will lead people out of your life. But with every elevation spiritually you go through, people are going to enter and people are going to exit. This is why you cannot be one that's going to be attached to people, because they're going to come in and out as a Christian, because they're going to be able to withstand. Remember, they're there for a season or a reason. They're going to stay there for the reason and the season that they're supposed to be there for. But because you elevated, the people that could not go with you to that next season, they're going to fall off, or they're going to act like a clumsy fool until you let them go. You will recognize who they are, and through idolatry, that you have idolized this individual, and that you need to release them because of the fact of how mad they become and how absolutely insane. You will literally be looking at this person like, I was dealing with you last year and we was cool. What the heck happened? Because this person will start acting all the way a fool, showing their entire areas. And you're like, what? They don't even act like that. God said, no, they always acted like that. I allowed them to bless you. Because remember, God turns the heart of man towards you and against you. You know that? Remember when Moses went in with Aaron back to Egypt? He said, I'm going to turn the Pharaoh's heart against you. Which means he can turn a person's heart towards or against you. Some of y'all have been out of season with your spouse, and God had not turned that man's heart towards you yet. And y'all was having a conniption fit because his heart wasn't turned towards you yet. It's like it's not there yet because he ain't ready yet. But when he ready, then I'll turn his heart towards you. See how that works? And once his heart is turned towards you when God's ready, it's like, oh, okay. Now you can't get rid of him. It's like, okay. You couldn't beat that man away. When God turns his heart towards you, you can't beat him away. You be looking at it like, oh my God. Some of y'all be afraid that he ain't going to accept you. When God turns his heart towards you, you can look darn near like anything at that particular point. And let me explain something to you. All this stuff, this can be fixed easily. God's been trying to work on this stuff. Because once he deal with this stuff, he can change this like that. You know what I'm saying? Okay? So, with that being said, when you make individuals your masters, you will end up turning them into idols. Perfect example. Like I said, if you have counselors that are not the right counselors, you will think, oh, I got to have wise counsel. The word said I have to. Yes, but they must be assigned by the Lord to you. Not somebody you just went out there and found. It's like, I'm going to go find me a counselor. No, you have to sit before the Lord and pray about who's supposed to counsel you in that season. Because the enemy got counselors too. And remember, there are people with heirs of godliness with no God in them. And they look darn near identical to the real thing. So you got to make sure that you're seeking God, even when you're preparing to go, when you're meeting this person. If you don't feel God all over that, you got to be like, even though I'm meeting you within 24 hours, I need you to be broke off of me if you ain't a God, because I cannot. I need you to show your areas of who you are, and God will show you who they are, and you will know, okay, I can't deal with you. You're not going to be the one for me. Because some of these counselors are operating in a spirit of error. Error of godliness, no God in them. There's a spirit of truth, and then there's a spirit of error, okay? You can't be associating yourself with people that are operating in error, because they will lead you in error. There's so many people that'll sit up there and say, but I'm the child of God. I am the light that is supposed to be in the world. I'm the one that's supposed to lead. And you're so full of pride about yourself that you think that you have the ability to make any. It's God that's changing those people, not you. It's God that's delivering those people, not you. He's just using you as a vessel to speak it out, to touch the individual, to do whatever. He is doing the work. This is how an individual that gets high on a high horse and God stops speaking to them. Especially when they start mixing things. Had this happen. An individual that I knew. And I'm going to tell you this. Listen to me carefully. Any individual that you make your personal idol, meaning, oh, I love this person. Oh my God, I love this person. Including your spouse. Yeah, I said it. I love this person. I love this person. I love this person. You put them on a pedestal above God. And let me clarify this for you. Okay? Because your spouse is supposed to be your leader in your household, but you are not to make them a God in your life. Okay? You are always to go back to God. Don't ever put that man on a pedestal before God, because he's going to show you. Some of y'all right now have been put into separation because you put that man on a pedestal, and that man showed you his entire areas. And you was like, what? Yeah. Because you made them a God over God. And God said, all right, I'm going to show you who they are. That you can't. I did that. I allowed them to be brought before you. I turn their heart towards you. I can just as easily remove my hand ever so slightly, let you see what they would act like if I did not have my hand on them. And he do it. I've seen him do it. You hear me? You understand what I'm saying? That he will show you. There are people in marriages right now. It's like, oh, me and my spouse got into a things like that happen when you focus too much on that man. You revolve your world. When I talk about the harmony chart, I always say God is the center of that chart. When you turn your center from God to your spouse, guess what? That man gonna start acting a damn fool. Why? Because it's like, think about the galaxies in the universe. When certain things are off axis, if the pull universally is going to go off and things are going to come out of orbit because of the fact that the centrifugal force cause things to go all. If you take God out the center and make your spouse the center, your entire orbit's going to just fall into all different directions because that man is not God. Now, you hear a lot of people will say that, oh, your spouse is a representation of God on exactly. He represents the way that God desires for you to be treated by him. The closer you are to God, the more aligned that man's going to be with you. The farther you become away from God, the stupider that man's going to start acting. And you're going to be like, why he acting all the way left? Because you when you distance yourself from God, he distanced himself from God. See how that work? 3-strand cord, not that easily broken. See how that work? You get away from God, God is going to back off. Now, if he tighten up his relationship with God, but you start to go left, he going to pull you back. He going to keep you straight. But as you pray for him, he going to pray for you, and the 3 strands of the cord are going to not easily be broken. Got that? But getting back to these mentors operating in error, they will begin to show themselves just the same. They will show you the parts of themselves to say, oh, I'm a little bit out of order with the Lord. And God will show you that they're out of order with the Lord in that season. I remember a particular individual I was allowing to lead me at the time. I started loving them a little bit too much. And it's not that I loved them more than I loved God. It was the fact that I was becoming too attached to this individual. And what God started to do is the closer I got to the individual, the more he showed me their human side and showed me some of the ungodly behaviors about this individual. And even yet, it's still, I would pray for the individual and they would straighten themselves out. But sometimes God's allowing that to be shown to you because he needs you to back up a little bit, because you're becoming too attached. And he doesn't allow things to become a permanent fix, because then you find yourself praying harder and harder and harder and harder for them to change. And what ends up happening is you can't change them. So you have to be willing to change you so that you can walk into what God's trying to do with you. And you may find that, just like what I just said about the spouse, they might become farther away from God. That means you got to let them go, because God allowed that to happen because you were making an idol out of them. And he would allow them to operate in error, just like the mentor in that story. The young man was told by God, go into the city, don't eat, don't drink, just do what I told you. But his mentor came across him and told him, come eat, come sup with me. Some of your mentors will lead you astray if you make them above God. Had an experience. Person don't know this, but they said something to me, which was an exact, outrightly direct against what God had told me in the secret place. And from that point forward, that person and I have been at a distance. So with that being said, you have to know that a lot of people are being controlled for their desire for worldly things, people pleasing, desire for mammon, all of this kind of stuff. And you have to recognize that, because when you have the spirit of discernment and can discern these things, the sad part about it is you can't get close to a lot of people to the degree that you might want to. But at the same time, it's the Lord protecting you from the spirit that's on them, because the more closely aligned you become with the spirit on them, it rubs off on you. And like I was saying earlier, it rubbing off on you can be dangerous to who you're called to speak to. You will begin to, I told you in other videos, you will start to mimic that. And you will be tainted. You cannot bend your knee to the world and still serve God. You're going to either love one or hate the other. I started to become internally vilifiedly angry with this individual because I loved God so much. When I saw this in them, and this is why I don't have a lot of friends right now, because I'm like, you go against God, I got to get rid of you. I'm sorry. I might be around you, but I ain't talking to you no more. That's why I totally understand Tiffany Montgomery's understanding. If you don't walk it with God, you can't be my friend. I war too hard is too much. I don't want to be under constant warfare with you in my ear. I don't need it. So I hope this blessed you. I'm going to come back for the next one.